Welcome back to tonight's edition of Talk Oxford. We're with my guests Bernadette Tyldesley and Graham Sinclair Jones, and the next topic we'd like to talk about is charity mugging or chugging, as it's being called, and that is where people, often elderly people, are accosted at home or in the street and persuaded to sign up for direct debits to charities. And whilst the charities may be very worthy, but nevertheless, is it an appropriate way of trying to boost the fundraising for a charity? Bernadette, what's your thinking on chugging?
I do not like chugging.
Good.
And I have been chugged.
Have you?
Yes, and I have said no thank you. And I have told them that I will donate to a charity of my choice when I want to donate to that charity. Thank you very much.
How did you manage to fend them off with a simple thank you, goodbye?
Yes, but they follow you along the street. It can be a little intimidating. And also I have had people come to the door as well.
Yep.
Which has not been very pleasant either, being very insistent, and again I've said no.
Have you known people who have succumbed to this sort of...
Well, I do know somebody who has realised how much she is spending on direct debits and has got to pull back, which is really quite surprising. Because, you know, if you opened every envelope that came through your letterbox, and you opened it up and you read it all, you said, oh goodness, yes, I must give that £5 a month. I must give that £10 a month to this poor person. But I perhaps have become too hard-hearted. And as I say, I do give to charity, but I choose when and whom I want to give it to.
Graham, have you had any experience?
I don't think I've ever been chugged. Now I think about it, perhaps I don't look sympathetic enough or rich enough or something, I don't know. Not in the street anyway. Although I have signed up to one or two things sort of purely voluntary, and of course, like all of us, I get a lot of mail shots, and some of which I succumb to and some not. The one thing that I think is particularly irritating, I don't know if you have the same experience, but is when what clearly happens is that you agree to give a subscription to a particular charity, whether it's Salvation Army or the welfare, the Wildlife Trust or something, and it's clear that your details have then been passed on to other organisations. I'm not suggesting that say, the couple of charities that I mentioned do this themselves, but it's clear that quite a lot do, don't they?
Yes.
There's obviously a database, if you like.
That's right.
On which our names get included.
And also they might phone you up and ask you to contribute more.
Yes, well, have you had that? I haven't had that.
Yeah, I've had some.
Have you really?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think fundraising these days is in fact big business, and a lot of the larger charities don't actually do it themselves. They employ companies effectively to do it for them, and it's perhaps more for those who are earning a living themselves out of fundraising for the major charities, or some of those major charities. They are on a commission basis, so to persuade as many people as possible is clearly in their interest. Is this something that the government perhaps ought to consider, well, not perhaps banning, but trying to regulate in some way, do you think?
Well, there's an element of irritation that we experience when we're pestered. Of course there is. And there's been as we know, there's been a very sad case that had a lot of publicity, the death of an elderly lady, which may or may not have been as a direct result of being pestered. But at the end of the day, I think most of us should be able to cope with, with having a tin waved at them in the street, or asked to sign something. We can all say no. You know, if we are vulnerable enough to sign up for everything, then yes, perhaps that person does need protecting. But the great majority of us, surely we're able to say no thanks, or just this one for now, or I'm already giving to something else, blah blah blah.
As is often the case, it's those relatively few vulnerable people that find themselves unable to say no.
Yes.
Perhaps there is some need for some kind of regulation, perhaps. I mean, I think what we all agree is that charities do a fantastic job, and the country would be much harder for us all to.
I'm sure we'd grind to a halt almost if it wasn't people doing charitable work.
Yep.
I mean, we were talking about hospitals, all the charitable work that goes on in hospitals.
Yep, from volunteers.
Volunteers, yes.
Extraordinary.
Yes.
The voluntary sector, in fact, is a very important part of the whole the way that the country runs.
It is, yes.
Some hospitals, certainly schools, many organisations would certainly struggle, if not actually fold, without those volunteers.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, even going around picking litter up in the parks and places like that, you know, which used to be done by local government services and isn't done so much now. So it's volunteers who go along with their plastic bags and those useful little stick things.
And I like to think that these voluntary activities have a benefit also for the people who are doing them.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
I mean, there's no doubt at all. I mean, I work in a bookshop, and huge number of hours are put in for fundraising, checking books, sorting books, selling books, but it's fun.
Yes.
And it happens. I mean, and those of us who do it, I think we probably all do it for ourselves as much as for the charity.
You love books, yes.
Exactly, and that goes, I think, for the great majority of charity shops, you know, and voluntary activities.
That's
you mentioned the litter.
Yes, and I am what is called a heritage volunteer. Oh. There's an organisation called NADFAS, which is the National Association of Decorative and Fine Arts Societies. You go to monthly lectures on arty subjects. But offshoots of this are church recorders and heritage volunteers. And the heritage volunteers they're fully trained, and they do a number of things, from conserving old books in libraries, costumes, photographs, letters. I mean, a stately home might go up into its attic, come upon a trunk. What's in here? Oh my goodness, look at this treasure chest of things we have found. What can we do about it? So they get onto their local NADFAS society, and people who are perhaps their costumes. People who are keen on costumes and needlework will get trained to get these costumes out, conserve them, mend them if necessary, so that they are then able to be displayed to the public. And the people doing that get a lot from it. They enjoy it.
I can imagine.
Yes.
That's right.
Small museums need help with perhaps cleaning their armour. They've got a lot of swords, you know, which haven't been cleaned for donkey's years. They get people are trained. They are curated while they are there. They don't do it all on their own. You know, they are well guided, and so you get all this collection of swords, you know, beautifully polished up, and so the public gain from it, the people doing it gain from it. There's all sorts of voluntary things you can do, apart from, you know, helping the sick,
I think
disabled.
What we're agreed on is that the voluntary sector is very important to the country,
yes.
But it's also
I'd say essential. I think,
essential to the country.
We grind to a halt, I think.
You would.
And
Yes.
yet those that do volunteer find it extremely enjoyable and rewarding.
Yes.
So we can
Yes.
do no more than suggest more might do that.
Yeah.
Can we move on perhaps
Yes.
to another topic? Campaign groups. We've just been through a big general election when campaigning seems to sort of take over. But it seems these days in almost every high street you'll find someone campaigning for one thing or another, from sort of the large scale, like should we be in or out of the European Union, to something as small as should there be a new supermarket in the town or whatever. Bernadette, have you done any campaigning in your time?
Yes, I have. One of the first things I was involved in was an organisation called Wings Off Wing, which was to stop the third London airport. And since then I've been involved in various campaigns, from getting a small local playground for our children, which involved marching round the town hall with placards, and my husband in the police force says, "You're not going to embarrass me, are you?" So I promised faithfully not to. And again, bigger things like the Eastern Bypass, which is going across England. A lot of people, I didn't personally get very much involved in that. That was another thing that was going on. There are also, another interesting one was when there was going to be a very, very big development of over 300 acres of land was going to be developed, and we had a New Orleans style funeral march along the high street, where it was in widow's weeds, all in black, coffin behind, jazz band playing. So that was really quite good fun. Yes.
That was campaigning against.
Yes. You always seem to get the against ones. You don't get the for ones very.
Graham, have you been a campaigner in your time?
No, I think I've little experience of campaigning as of chugging, actually. But,
Okay.
I've been campaigned against rather more than campaigning. Yes,
Well, the campaign is over for this evening, I think. Yes. There, sadly, we have to leave it for this evening. Don't forget that if you'd like to get in touch with us, and you can tweet us at That's Oxford TV, or you can email us at talk@that'soxford.com. So, until the next time, thank you for watching, and good night.